I thought that, so I went and, has Lewis met with Marissa?
No, I met her when I did an assumption.
Okay. Hi. You're wrong.
Funny how that works.
Clearly one of them.
Oh, well. Right, right.
You have to click it on, there's a button at the top.
Okay.
You don't even, this, we're not doing anything that. Then
Is it on? Is it green?
Yes.
See. Okay, good morning. I hereby open up the emergency board meeting for September 14th, 2022 at 9:30 here in Marks Hall. Russell, would you give the invocation, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Our gracious God, we thank you for the opportunity to have this meeting here for our park people also, and we also thank you for the help and the understanding that all of us need to be done with everything and to progress towards the future. Please be with us, God, today. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'd like to have the roll call. Lori, are you with us?
Yep, I am. Mary Chandler,
Here.
In the hall.
Lori Dalton, here. Thank you. Here, Zoom. Kathy Gregory,
Here in the hall.
Todd Lombardi,
Excused.
sorry, just a second. All right, Russell McAllister,
Here in the hall.
Louis Nichols,
Here in the hall.
Pete Price,
Absent.
Sandy Simonich. Dwayne Trotter.
Present and in the hall.
Okay.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to introduce Marissa Powell is from, I'm sorry, Powers from Blaylock and Walters, our district's council. She would kind of explain why we have the emergency meeting today.
Good morning, everyone. As Chair Trotter said, my name is Marissa Powers, and I work with Mark Barnaby on a lot of the district matters. But I think this is my first time ever coming to one of your meetings. So we had to call an emergency meeting to address certain financing deadlines and assessment requirements under Florida law, and also to address certain notice requirements that have to be met in order for the meeting to be a valid meeting. So I understand the process for today is that Chair is going to open up the public hearing. At the time that public comment comes around, if you are here today, you are more than welcome to get up and make your public comment. However, the meeting will be continued until tomorrow, just to ensure that there were some potential notice issues, and we want to make sure that this meeting goes forward as it should. So the meeting will be continued until tomorrow, but if you are here today, you are more than welcome to get up and make your public comments at this time.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing. And I'd like to start off with Mary with the presentation, please.
Okay, this presentation is a duplicate for the most part of the one that we did at the public hearing held in July. So those of you that attended that meeting either in person or through Zoom, you're going to see a lot of the same slides. But for those of you who didn't, then what I'm going to do today is try to help everybody understand why we're taking on this project, why we're acquiring this debt and the importance of it. So we're going to go over the seawall improvement project, and I've got some slides to show you on the extent of the damage that needs to be repaired. We're going to talk about the process of setting the special assessment, the final budget that we're going to need to adopt at our regular meeting of the 19th that will include the assessment and the loan payment on that, a provision in the process for prepayments. And I know that's confusing to a lot of people. So I'm going to do the best I can to help you understand prepayments so you all can make that personal decision as to whether or not you want to do that or not. I'm going to try to answer some questions that I've seen already, emails that have been sent to me, phone calls that I've made, things that I've read on Facebook that I can't respond to, but today I can, to kind of maybe answer a lot of the questions that you may already have. And then we'll open it up for public comment, and you will be free to make any comments or ask any additional questions that you have, and we'll all do our very best to answer those for you. So the seawall improvement project has been going on for quite a while. We had an inspection completed by Reuben Clarkson back in March of 2021. And at that time, the report, which is available on our website, by the way, if anybody wants to read it, it noted a lot of defects and cracking. And at that time, the report left with, this is a must-have repair. This is not a nice to have. The damage is significant enough so that we can't avoid making these repairs. At that time, the board determined that it was critical enough to move forward. So we started the process of soliciting bids for the completion of the project, and I started working on how we were going to finance the project. And again, all this information, there's a folder on the website that's got a lot out there. Back in February of 2022, I put a standing agenda item on the workshop agenda for the board. And in every single board meeting since February of 2022, this has been a discussion item. There's been updates at every single board meeting of where we are in regards to the process. So I'm hoping that if you didn't attend the meeting, you watched the YouTube videos or whatever, so you were informed about the fact that this has been talked about since February, actually. I had to look back at that and I'm like, holy moly, we've been doing this a lot. I had a slide presentation put together to kind of show you some visuals of the defects in the seawall. Todd was unable to be with us today. He went over it at the July meeting. I'm going to show some slides and I'm going to ask Bill, who is the next best expert on this, to help explain some of them. But this first slide is a recent sinkhole issue that we had at the marina due to the fact that it's just deteriorating, and we found ourselves faced with a sinkhole that we had to attend to. This is just another view of that sinkhole. And Bill, can you kind of help them with how big it was, what it took? I mean, what caused the sinkhole?
Yeah, the washout behind the seawall was caused by a horizontal crack below the water line, which most of you wouldn't be able to see just walking along the marina. What happened is we had a heavy rain, which added more water behind the seawall, washed out through that crack. caused a washout of about 12 feet along the seawall in one area, about 3 feet off the seawall, and about 3 feet deep. We ended up putting in a couple dozen bags of concrete to reinforce that crack behind the wall and filled it back in. There was also a secondary washout about 3 feet farther down the wall. That washout was about 5 feet by 3 feet by about the same distance deep. We also put more concrete behind that one, filled it in behind it. We've experienced these washouts over the years several times. We've spent many of extreme low tides in the wintertime, putting on waders, going down in the water, and mixing up hydraulic cement to fill vertical cracks and horizontal cracks as often as we could. It's really just putting a small Band-Aid on a big cut. And the water is going to force its way out one way or another, and it's found other areas to do that. That's why you're also experiencing on the north wall especially separations in a walk where you'll notice there's cones down there and a little slope where the two walks are separated at a crack. It's because of washout behind the wall and settling in the walkway.
Yeah, this is some holes that are, but I wanted to kind of get to the sidewalk where you're talking about. These are some cracking here. Patchwork, this is a hole that has probably been patched before. And this is an example of the patchwork that we've had to do over the years. It's just can't continue to patch a problem. At some point, you've got to address the problem. Some uneven, but now the patchwork. There's the cones where we have the uneven sidewalks, which, you know, are gonna, they're safety
Oh,
issue
very
for
much so.
sure. And then some more cracking and patchwork. And what I wanted to do today was this, you know, for those of you who don't go down to the marina and don't spend time down there, I wanted you to appreciate that this has been something that's been needing to be done for a long time, and you can only patch a problem for so long before you need to address it. And we're at that point.
Well, I'd also like to say that the marina seawalls are 66 going on to 67 years
old.
of age.
Yeah.
Everywhere you see a crack, a hole, a dividing line in there where the sidewalk or the walkway is sinking, that is all water washing up and underneath the concrete, which eventually is going to collapse.
Correct.
Yep. And that would be catastrophic. I mean, really.
This seawall has exceeded its life by about 17 years. Even our new seawall has an expected life of about 50 years. And that's new high-tech seawalls. Concrete is not meant to be in salt water for 67 years and hold up.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate it. So with that, we had Foster Consulting. We pulled them in to help us with the bidding process for finding a company that would be willing to do this repair work for us. We received bids from 3 companies, Florida, Structural, Duncan, and Abbott. We were moving forward with that. It's simultaneously to that, I'm working on the financing of this project, and it was, we kind of uncovered that the bank financing wasn't going to approve a loan without security that we would be able to pay it back. Makes perfect sense, right? So until having them understand the way we work and the fact that we have to certify a tax roll, and then when we do that, we secure income that we can use to repay it. They weren't able to close on a loan till this week because I'm going to certify the tax roll tomorrow. So at that point, the bids that we had received had expired. So we had to go out for a second round of bids. Abbott and Florida Structural agreed to present a second round of bidding. And with that, we approved Florida Structural to do the repair work to the seawall. While that was going on, I was working on the funding of the project. So we contracted with Public Resource Advisory Group. And Wendell Gartner, the contact person that I have with Florida, with Public Resource Advisory Group, was going to be here today to answer any questions that anybody might have. But unfortunately, he has come down with COVID, so he is going to stay safely away. And I thanked him for staying safely away. We went out for a bidding process. Wendell helped with that for me. We received bids back from 3 different banks, Bank of Tampa, Center State, and Regions Bank. We decided to go with Regions Bank. They had the most favorable interest rate, and prepayment penalties were better for them than the other companies if we should ever get to that point. So, and they agreed to lock in the interest rate 30 days before the closing. So we did lock in the interest rate in mid-August. It locked in at 4.11%, which was a favorable rate compared to the competitive bids. And all of the bids we received from the other banks are out on the website as well, if you wanted to see the rates and terms that we received from them. At that point, we had to bring in some additional professionals that are required when you're doing a bond. We had to get bond counsel to act as for the bond side, and then Blaylock Walters acted as the district counsel. So we contracted with Neighbors Giblin. We have 2 attorneys with Neighbors Giblin that helped me through this process. They are worth their weight in gold. They will be here tomorrow because we're going to be doing a pre-closing with the bank. And I can't wait to see them in person and thank them for many hours of helping me through a process that I had no experience in. It was just trying to understand. But they provided us with all of our timing, deadlines, resolutions, letters, the letters that was sent out. They drafted those letters to make sure they met all of the requirements of Florida state statutes for what we had to disclose. We also hired Rosetta and Company, who specializes in assessment methodology. We wanted to make sure that when we determined how we were going to allocate the cost for this loan, that we did it the correct way, the way that was proper according to our charter, and just making sure that it was benefited the residents of the park properly. There's a report out on the website that Rosetta put together that basically supported our decision to assess for this loan based on parcel, on lots within a parcel, which is the same as we do with our operating assessment. But it was nice to get that validation that was the appropriate next step. So what we were required to do is hold a public hearing to set a tentative budget. So while everybody was sent a letter in June, we held a public hearing in July. I went through this same presentation then, and we set a tentative budget. That was important. I felt that public hearing was important because you were all going to be getting your estimated tax bills. Those were going to be mailed. And I wanted to get the most accurate information on that tax bill as I could. But since we hadn't locked in the rate, it was a balancing act. What do we use for a payment amount? So the powers that be and the team decided we would go with a 6% interest rate. At that time, interest rates were going all over the place. So we felt like that was a safe interest rate to use. So when you got the letter and you got your preliminary tax bills that were mailed in August, you're going to notice that the assessment amount is higher than what it's going to end up being, because that assumed a 6% rate. So we did that to kind of get that out in front of everybody as soon as possible. So now here we are, we've locked in the rate at 4.11%. It equates to $100.44 per lot. We've come up with a new term for that. Equivalent assessment unit. We're going to get fancy. It's lot. We have always assumed it's lot. We are setting a final budget in place that will use that $100.44. We're having the public hearing today. We will approve the budget on the 19th. I have to submit a tax roll by 5 p.m. tomorrow to the tax collector. And then I will certify that tax roll. And when the bills are mailed in November, it will have the $100.44 and the operational assessment that was approved back in March. So that's what I think is confusing for a lot of people. You're not going to see 2 separate line items on your tax bill. It's not going to be the operating assessment and then the special assessment that's related to this financing. It's going to be the total of the 2. I wanted to do 2 different line items. I couldn't do it. The tax collector didn't provide for that ability. So I apologize because it would have been a lot easier if I'd been able to do that. So it's going to be a total amount, and everybody is going to pay that $100.44 per lot for this tax run. And then after that, we're going to offer a prepayment option, and I'll go through that. And then everybody's tax bill will be different going forward, depending if you opt in or not with that prepayment provision. All things go smoothly. We're doing a pre-closing tomorrow. The bank accounts will be funded with the loan proceeds on Friday. Certainly hope that continues to go forward. So the budget that we're going to be talking about at the 19th meeting is here, and there's a lot of numbers here, but basically the only difference between that and the one we approved in March is the assessment of the $100.44, because it was an estimated amount prior, and the actual loan amount of the $138,000 a year. That is the amount that's with the new interest rate, the locked-in interest rate. So, and we'll be going over that in detail when we approve it on the 19th. And this is available on the website with the agenda for the 19th as well. So I spoke about prepayments and how prepayments will work. What we do when I charge that $100.44 to each lot, the district doesn't get $100.44. Okay, the property appraiser's office is going to take 1.5% commission, and the tax collector is going to take a 1.5% commission to be basically bill collectors for us, to take the money in when you pay your taxes and then send it to us. So I'm going to get 97% of that. And so if you want to, and then the loan is going to accrue interest, and we'll be paying interest. If you prepay, so let me, I want to just make sure you know that we're going to allow, right now, that our plan is to allow you to prepay in March of 2023. And we're going to allow another open window in March of 2024 for those who weren't aware of it. And I wish I'd known about that. I would have done that in a minute. They'll have a second opportunity. Right now, there's no plan to allow it after that, but we can if we want to. It'll just be a decision that we'll have to, whatever board sits here will have to make, or whether or not they want to open that back up again. Once you make that prepayment, you don't get it refunded. If you sell the property, we're not going to refund you anything. If you pass away, we're not going to refund you anything. It goes, that money goes with the property from that point forward. So let's see, let's go to an example. So this is my property. I just picked mine because I didn't want to pick anybody else's that wouldn't approve. I have a single lot. So my proportional payment, we have 1,479 lots in this subdivision. So my proportional part of that $1.5 million loan is $1,014.20. I'm going to be making a payment on my tax bill of $100.44. Once I'm going to pay it in November, so I'm going to get an early payment discount. So I'm going to get a 4% reduction. And then the property appraiser and the tax collector are going to take their commission piece, and $93.53 is going to be left over after that. What will happen is $67.48 will go towards the principal of the loan for my lot, and $26.05 will go to interest. So if in March of 2023, I want to choose the prepayment option, I will pay $946.72. That should be the $1,014.20 minus the $67.48 that went to principal for me personally. So I have a choice, a personal choice. I can cut a check for $946.72 in March. And at that point forward, when I get my tax bill, I will only be assessed the operational assessment that's needed to just keep the lights on. Or I can continue to pay the $100.44 every year for 15 years. By doing that prepayment, if you take that $100.44 over a 15-year loan, instead of paying $1,506 over the term of the loan, I'm paying $946. I have saved $559. Okay. but again, this is a very personal decision because once you pay it, we're not going to refund it. And then, I'm sorry.
You really, you don't, you got to remember you paid the first year when you talk about how much you saved.
I did. I put that into the equation because I said that, yeah. Okay, I get what you're saying,
Yeah.
Louis. So it's not quite the 559, it's
No.
the 1506 minus
Yeah,
the 67.
sorry. Yeah.
No, I wish I had caught that. Oh, you're right. Okay, well, this example is going to be similar. This is another property. Again, this is my brother's property. He lives in the park. So I said, okay, if I'm going to grab mine, I'll grab his. This is my brother's property. He's going to love this when I show it to him, that I put this up here. But so he has almost 2 lots. And so this is his scenario of what he would pay and what he would save. But again, I thank you for pointing that out, Louis.
Sorry.
Right? No, please, we need to make sure we get the right information out there. So I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of people about the prepayments. It's very confusing. And like I said, it's a very individualized decision about, and it's different for every single person. If you're, an example I said is if you're an older person that says, I don't know, I probably only have a few more years left. Why would I want to prepay? Well, if you're going to leave your property to your kids, you've just saved your kids some money. When it's sold, you've got a sales, your assessment's already paid. You're not going to have to worry about it because it goes with the property. There's a lot of different ways that you can use this to your benefit if you can afford to do the prepayment, but it's a very individualized decision. And you will have another opportunity if you decide this year, I don't know if I want to do this right now. I'm just going to keep paying. And next year you're like, now I wished I had. You will have another opportunity to do with a prepayment. So that's basically my presentation as far as the financing and the particulars of the financing. Tried to kind of explain why this is a necessary project for the park to undertake. But I do go out on Facebook to prepare for these meetings. And I have seen a lot of the comments out on Facebook. And the common one that I saw was, why didn't the park go after grants? And I just want to say, we did review grant opportunities. We looked ourselves. I spent many hours looking for grant opportunities myself. We reached out to Misty Servia to see, was she aware of anything that could help us? We contacted Will Robinson, and is there anything that's available to us? And it didn't seem like there was anything we were going to be able to do, but I really, if there's anybody here in the park that's got grant experience that can find one, we'll go after it. I can promise you that. We weren't able to find any. And so the next thing we did was we tried to look at tax exempt financing. And I've asked, Marissa to help out because it was determined we didn't qualify for tax exempt financing, which was a disappointment because we would have had a much lower interest rate. But I'm not going to be able to speak eloquently to that, but did you want to say something?
Can I add in there? I also went out on the websites looking for grants. What I did find is there were federal grants for places like Marina Jacks, where you actually have a yacht or a big boat that's going to come in. They have the radio. They call in and say, trailer stays, do you have a slip available so I can sleep overnight? So it's like large seawalls to where they can actually port themselves. They did not apply to our little marina as a small government, small
Privately
public,
owned, yeah.
private, mostly private.
Yeah.
So we did look for those loans, and
we absolutely-
unfortunately, I didn't find
Yeah.
anything.
So with regards to the tax exempt funding, so there's a couple of ways that you can qualify for that type of financing. The only prong that the district could possibly qualify under is ad valorem taxing. But as you're aware, your charter governs what the district can do. And as it stands right now, the charter does not allow for ad valorem taxing. Therefore, you can't meet that prong of the tax code. And at this time, based upon your current charter, the tax exempt funding was not an option because it does not provide for ad valorem taxing.
So that was the common questions I saw out there. I don't know, hopefully I've answered, trying to think if there's any others that I wanted to make sure I addressed. This is a 15-year loan. There seemed to be some confusion about the term of the loan. It is a 15-year loan. The loan will not cover 100% of what it's costing us to do this. I want to make that perfectly clear. We got a $1.5 million loan, but we've incurred legal expenses and cost of issuance expenses that once we pay the contractor for the actual work done at the marina, there will be some money that has been spent in prior fiscal years related to this project that won't be recovered. But we've already spent them, and it's unfortunate but we would have had to go for more than 1.5, and we weren't prepared to do that at this point. We were hoping for a much lower interest rate than we would have had enough money to, but whatever. So at this point, I'm comfortable opening up the floor for questions and comments. It's going to work the same way as it always does. Come to the
Yep,
mic,
yeah.
name, address.
And when you do come up to the microphone, just go ahead and state your name and your
Yep.
address, and then go ahead and ask your question.
Good morning, Sandy Paxton, 6506 Nebraska. Mary, first of all, I want to say thank you very much for all the work you've done. Thank the board for all the work they've done, because it's certainly not a paid position where they're responsible for doing this. So a lot of work on your behalf. The only question I really have is, you say there's additional money at the end that we're going to owe. Do you have any idea, a ballpark of what that's going to look like? And is that going to result in another future assessment?
I don't have an exact amount to share with you. It will not, I don't think it's going to result in an additional assessment. We've got some opportunities here to take care of that gap with the money that we're going to be getting at the end of this month that's going to come from the fire department dissolution. If we have to use it for that, if that's something we'll discuss as a board, is whether or not, but right now, I don't think it's going to be enough. I think we can absorb it.
Okay, all right, thank you very much
Yes,
again.
yeah.
Gordon Elton, 1804 Ohio. Mary, would you address the use of the money that we had set aside in prior budgets? I believe it was something over 300,000
Yep.
that was set aside. I'm sure you covered it in previous discussions, but
Nope.
if you'd refresh everybody today.
So that's another, I mean, when we're talking about this money that the loan's not going to cover, we did have that money set aside. That's in our general fund. It wasn't, when we did our budget, we don't, I'm trying to think of the right word here. Oh gosh, my mind's blanking me. We don't lock it down. That's a bad term. There's a better term for it, but I'm missing it. When we set our capital outlay budgets and stuff, we leave that money sort of fluid. So if catastrophes happen, we don't have to go through special meetings and everything in order to be able to use it for an event. So it's there, it's in our general fund. It's still there. We can use it for the shortfall. Absolutely.
This $1.5 million project was just the bond proceeds minus the expenses of issue.
right.
And that, but this 300,000 wasn't planned to be used as part of the construction funding?
No. Can I answer that?
Go for it.
What it did is, I had to pay for the initial survey to
Ruben
Carlson, thank you. That cost money. Then I went out for the bid, and they also had to drop the entire specs for the bid process. Then we had to pay for the bonding for the award of the construction contract. And we have just a little bit of money left over from that 300,000
Yeah.
to take care of hopefully any change orders that may come up in a contract like this. And I don't know, I'm just guessing that probably there will be a change order for some
There usually
item,
is,
but
yeah.
hopefully
And so what I'm hearing you say is that money's been spent, mostly spent.
mostly
for
spent.
The preliminary costs.
Correct.
Of getting us
Yeah,
to this
correct.
point.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
actually had 2 surveys done just to ensure the first guy was right.
Second opinion type.
Second opinion.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Kevin Martin, 2105 Ohio Avenue. Can I speak to you after this? And I really appreciate your explanation. I have another question about ad valorem taxes.
Okay.
I want to echo what they said. You guys are, I'll keep it simple, I guess. Great job, Ed. I appreciate you being here, doing everything you can do, especially
Thank you.
Mr. Trotter, the mayor.
Oh,
Don't like to use people's words against him, but if we've known for 17 years, we've seen this coming, how do we not start putting money away? And is there something else like this out there that we need to start putting money away?
it was recognized quite a few years ago. At that time, we were hoping we could do one wall at a time. So that was the money that Gordon mentioned about that we'd been setting aside, and we were thinking one wall. When we got into it and we realized this was bigger than we thought, and one wall at a time wasn't going to do it for us. That's when it became, now we've got to look at this differently.
Yep, we actually set aside $65,000 for 5 years.
Yeah.
That's basically where the 320
Yep.
some thousand
Yeah.
came from. From that, we issued all those specs, contracts and all that stuff, which is eating it. Another big one that might come up is the pool.
Oh, yeah.
Say all of a sudden we have a small little ship in the sand that is built on, do a major crack in that and you have to replace the pool. Yeah, there's $1 million starting.
So you're going forward now, since we're already into this, not a bond, I guess, loan we did. If something else comes up, we can't now take more money to get ready for that. So the way forward is going to be the same way we're doing this for the pool, if that's what happens.
And,
Hope.
and the decision that we need to make is if we should ever have to do anything of this magnitude and need to look at financing for it, do we want to do what we need to do now to put us in a position so we do qualify for tax exempt financing? And, you know, our charter allows us to amend it through referendum vote. Okay, we don't have to go back through the legislature. So, you know, my thought is at some point in time, we need to think about whether or not we want to put some kind of a provision in there, even though we probably will never, ever, ever, ever do it, that says that we could assess an ad valorem tax. We don't ever have to act on it. But if it's in our charter, we automatically qualify for tax exempt financing.
What I know about taxes, I'd like to talk to you about that too. You probably do not want to do my gut feel from what I know about taxing.
Okay, well, I mean, I'm just saying this is something that it was put out in front of us. I'm thinking at some point in time, you know, we need to make sure we've set ourselves up. There's also some other financing vehicles that I found that are affordable to special districts in Manatee County. In several counties in Florida. Manatee County is not participating in it right now. So it wasn't something that we could get. We didn't have the time to kind of be the first people to break into that, but that's something else that we need to work on. We need to find out about this financing program that's available for special districts. Is it something that we might want to set ourselves up for? So if we ever need to do this again, that's another opportunity for us. So I'm going to look into that as well so that we're set up for if we ever need to do it again, but hopefully it will be a while before we have to do it again.
Now that
I know, exactly.
I'm sorry, now that the question's been, I'm sure people are going, what's an ad valorem and a non-ad? Maybe that would be a good time to answer that.
I can ask several questions if you want to answer them.
Now you're gonna put me on the spot here. An ad valorem tax is a way. I'm not the best person to explain this, honestly. It's gonna be Mark. Because I don't do a lot of ad valorem taxing work. Thank you. But it's a, if I understand ad valorem taxing correctly, it's a way to basically, it's almost similar to, I don't want to say it's a special assessment. It's almost like it's another way to tax the lot owners within the district that may or may not have more favorable terms. I mean, I think the reason why the district is even considering this is because it has that connection to the tax exempt funding, which, I'm sure it has its pros and cons. But I think, with what Board Member Chandler was saying was, look, if this ever has to happen again, it would be nice that the district has all the options available to it, so that they can see, is ad valorem taxing the way to go? But it would be another tax on the lot owners. That's just the most general way that I can say it. But there might be some ways that if obviously if it's tax exempt, there's some benefits to that. So I think I don't want to alert people that ad valorem taxes are coming, but I
No.
think it's
No.
just, like I said, I think if hopefully you don't have to have the situation again, but if you do, it would be nice that the district would be able to explore this tax exempt financing to see if it's more beneficial than going with a bank or what have you. So
So ad valorem taxes are, it's a tax that's based on the value of your home. So there's a market value and there's a taxable value.
And the mill rate.
And then there's a mill rate that is applied to your taxable value, which is after all of your exemptions, if you claim Florida. Yeah. So that is what an ad valorem is. And if you're not a Florida resident, the state can up the value on your house as much as 10%. And there's nothing you can do about that. And then you have to pay that additional tax. If you're a Florida resident, they cannot up the value of your house more than 3%.
With the homestead.
With the homestead, if you're homesteaded. So you have more control over that tax portion on your bill if you're homesteaded than if you're not. So, everybody has to make that decision as to whether or not they want, if they're snowbirds, if they want to make Florida their homestead based on what they own in their and what they get for homestead exemptions there. And, it's a very personal decision. First thing I did was become Florida homestead and claim Florida as my state domicile. Automatically didn't have to pay state sales tax for this, everything worked for me.
I need to get a meeting with you. just to make sure.
So, but what I was talking about was putting a provision in the charter, which again, I didn't want to derail today's meeting on
Yeah,
that.
please.
That would say that we could. It didn't mean we ever would. And if we ever did enter into another loan that was a tax exempt loan, whatever we would need to pay back that loan would still be a non-ad valorem assessment. It wouldn't be an ad valorem tax. Okay. It would just be, just like I'm adding that $100.44 to the operational assessment now, I would add whatever that tax exempt financing is to that. And it would be an assessment on the tax return. So I'm not anticipating us ever.
Say that.
I know, as long as I'm alive and living in here, I tell you, I'll be fighting that. Have an ad valorem tax on our properties, but the fact that it says we could in our charter means we automatically qualify for better financing options if we need them. And like Marissa said, it's just making it so when we have to make that decision, we have several options available to us instead of one.
Hey, Mary.
Thank you.
Hey, Mary, this is Ritesh Patel at Neighbors Giblin. I was just listening.
Oh, I didn't
in.
know you were on the call. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I figured I'd just jump in and maybe answer the question. So Mary's on the right track. Ultimately, in order to issue tax exempt debt, you have to be a political subdivision of the state. And there's three basic powers one of three powers you have to have in order to issue tax exempt debt under the tax code. And one of those is the power to levy taxes, which you guys do not have. You also have to, or the power of eminent domain, which again, you don't have, or the police powers, which again, you don't have. So that is why the district could not issue tax exempt debt for this particular transaction. So if you were to amend your charter to allow for the levy of ad valorem taxes, meaning you have the power to levy ad valorem taxes, you then would fit into that political subdivision category, and that would allow you to issue tax exempt debt. And as Mary correctly stated, it doesn't mean you have to issue debt that is payable from ad valorem taxes. You could still do non-ad valorem special assessments to secure any loans, but you could do it on a tax exempt basis, which typically is going to provide you with some interest rate savings on the financing.
This is one of those wonderful attorneys from Neighbors Giblin that
Yep.
saved me through this whole process. They were available to me a lot. I drove them crazy, I'm sure, but thank you very much.
No
That's
problem.
a good answer, but I will take a bit more of your time.
Okay,
Thank you for what you guys do.
all right, thanks.
Wayne,
Thank
you're
you.
the man.
All right.
Thank you.
Six
Can you pull that? Can you pull the microphone?
Oregon.
Nope, got to do your name again, please. I didn't
Could you
hear
say
any
that?
of it.
Fran,
Fran Cox. So
I'm
for
sorry. I'm still having a hard time hearing you, please.
Fran Cox,
just pull the microphone right to your, there you go.
so from what I hear, 17 years out of 66
Actually-
years, y'all been asleep at sea.
I'm sorry?
So for 17 years out of 66, y'all been asleep at sea. So none of this has been fixed. So you knew about this for 17 years. Now we're being stuck with this, and say somebody wanted to put their house on the market
Mhm.
and they're doing, you know, they're not paying it, didn't pay it in full. Do you think that's an asset to selling your house at this point? Or at any point? And I'm confused because when I heard the last meeting, you said there's 788,000 in a money market. What's that for? I mean, maybe that goes on to something different, but there isn't any money to be used for y'all's neglect. I mean, I'm not putting any, it just seems to me I'm quite just curious, and I'm sure a lot of other people are too. And are you increasing the boat slips at all? Or is it just us homeowners that are going to be paying for it?
Okay.
And then when you talked about prepaying, there's no break for the people to, well, that are going to if you prepay. If you don't prepay and then you turn around and try to sell your place again, like I said, that's not going to increase the property value. I'm just questioning.
Mhm.
I just like to know some answers.
Okay,
Thank you.
Ma'am, did you give your address?
6615 Oregon.
Okay, thank you.
thanks. So where do we want to?
Let me start off with the increase in the boat slips. Over the past 4 to 5 years, we have increased the boat slips. It is still only about 40% of what is being charged on the outside of any other storage place for that or slips. I'm going to say 3 to 5 years, the residents came to me and asked why they didn't have priority over the non-residents within the park. The board went ahead and changed the policy that when there was a resident who had a slip or needed a slip, then when the contract ended of the non-resident, then that non-resident was booted out. Sounds wonderful. It gave the park residents their slip. They're all happy. The only thing is there was I'm 36. There was 36 non-residents that had slips out of the 116. When you decrease the 36 slips, which we're paying anywhere from 15 to 1,700 a year versus the 400, we are now losing, the last count I had was 25,000. If we get rid of the less or the rest of the non-residents, we are going to be lacking about 35 to 45,000 bucks.
It's substantial.
It's going to be a substantial. So guess what that's going to do to the residents who actually want a slip that have came and said, I want priority. So I have to, I'm sorry, the board has to recollect that money. So yes, those slips are going to go up substantially. Does that answer your question, Fran? On that?
So yeah, every time we lose a non-resident slip, it's a deficit in our income that's substantial.
And
So
if I remember, I think we talked about this maybe 2 or 3 meetings ago that we were losing $25,000 already, and that the race will be looked at to start the increases.
yep.
Dwayne,
Yes,
I did not get Fran's last name. I couldn't ever hear it clearly. Can you please
Cox.
get her last name and have her spell it?
It's Cox, C-O-X.
Gotcha. Thank you so much.
And we're gonna make this interactive, I think.
I don't want to really make it interactive. Okay, let me go the other way. Could I have a motion to make this an interactive meeting?
I'll make that
All those
motion.
in, okay,
I'm
do
sorry,
I
sorry.
have, I've got a second.
Okay.
All those in favor of making this an interactive motion, please say aye. Those
Aye.
against, nay. Okay. So yes, the question you're asking is why is it on the homeowners that don't have a boat? Yes, those boat slips will go up, and I'm gonna say in the future, hopefully before December, the board will actually look at trying to match or just below the storage rates and boat slips from the outside. Yes. No.
What are you answering, Dwayne? I can't hear what's being asked.
So you have to repeat the question.
I think it's
Could-
probably best that Mrs. Cox comes up to the microphone.
Yeah, could you
Yeah.
come back up?
Yeah. Thank you.
And I understand if you're a boat owner, I'd love to be a boat owner, but I couldn't be if I wanted to be. And I don't think 1,300 other people can be either. So 1,300 people are going to be paying all this money. So you have to understand my concern and a few other people's concerns.
Mhm.
We
I
can't
think-
even get a boat.
I
We've
think-
only have
yeah.
100 and some. Maybe there is another option. And I don't think we've looked at it.
The other thing I think everybody needs to understand is all the money that comes in from those boat slips, every single person in this park reaps the benefit of that. So when you're paying your assessment, it's reduced by the income we're getting from the boat slips. So you may not own a boat, you may not have a boat and a boat slip, but because we have a marina
Mhm.
and because we have boat slips that we can lease, every single
Where is that
person-
money going? I don't know.
It goes to the general fund. All the money that comes in from the boat slips goes into the general fund. It goes to pay for the lights. It goes to pay for staff. It goes to everything. So every single person gets a piece of that income that comes in from the boat slips. Just like when we rent the post office space. Just like when we rent every bit of money that comes into the park
But
from any
because this
source
is a special,
possible.
excuse me, but because this special interest and we're dealing strictly with Marina,
Yeah.
it seems like all of that should offset it. And it should have been done for the last 17 years.
Well, as far as the last 17 years go, we have recognized in
Bandage.
not that
bandage.
long ago that it's issues. That's why we've done in order to save, we've tried to do the patchwork. We've tried to extend the life of the marina as long as we could. I can't speak to decisions that were made by prior boards 15 years ago, 10 years ago. We can only speak to the decisions that are put before us during our terms and how we need to address them. But I just think it's important that the way the way we work is every dime of income that comes in is in a general fund and every dime of it is used to run the park. If we were to say that, okay, we're going to use the money from the boat slip income to pay this loan. Because that, it's for the marina, then the income from the boat slips needs to go to pay the loan. If I could charge enough in boat slips to make that loan payment, we could do that. But now I've just taken $138,000, that's a loan payment away from the general fund. Now everybody has to pay more because we still have to turn the lights on, we still have to pay our salaries, we still have to pay insurance.
Okay, but then we're back to my question of what is this money market of
Okay, yes, I
$788,000
do want,
doing for
I
us?
do want, so what happens is when people pay their property taxes, okay, and the assessment is part of it. The tax collector submits to us the money that's collected for our assessments, and it goes into our money market account. Because even though it's not very much interest, it used to be earning a lot more. All of our income goes into our money market account. As we pay bills, as we get electricity bills, payroll bills, insurance bills, we transfer money from the money market into the checking account to pay the expenses of the park. So if any point in time you see, probably when you look at our money market balance in November, December, January, and February, you're probably going to see a very healthy amount of money in there because that's when everybody's paid their taxes. Now we have no more money coming in, but we have bills that we have to pay for 8 months.
That may
So-
be, but still, why can't, we're not getting any interest, very little off
Well-
that money market, but we're gonna be having to pay interest. We don't prepay this debt. So why couldn't we use any of that money for some of it?
Right now, best case scenario on September 30th, when our fiscal year is done, we might have $500,000 in our money market account. That's all
Yeah.
we have. If we have a catastrophic event in here and we don't have any money coming in.
This is a catastrophic event.
Well,
No.
a healthy
If we don't
reserve,
fix it, it is.
a healthy reserve for any organization should be 6 to 9 months worth of expenses. We do not have enough in our reserve for 6 to 9 months worth of expenses. We've never had that much reserve. When I first came into this position, that was the first thing that I went, whoa, we don't have enough reserve here. And I've been trying to build up that reserve so that we would have emergency funds if anything should happen. To use that money now, well, we couldn't anyway, because it's not enough. We would never have enough. But to use it just to even make a couple of years loan payments would not be a good financial decision because we wouldn't be having a reserve.
To reduce the interest, it
To-
would help.
I still think that it would not be a good financial decision for this park to use reserve money that we have for emergency situations for this type of a level project, because we already don't have enough in our reserve, in my opinion.
Well, I don't think
Period.
there's enough income coming in from the marina. Since there's only 116 boat slips, why not consider or think about putting leasing out, that parking lot's out large. Why couldn't somebody want to put something up there, invest and put something up there to bring some type of income?
I can tell you, we are constantly looking at ways to bring more income into the park. I mean, we got the
A
storage lot.
concession stand,
Well, we're limited to things we can do as
That's-
a park
As a
and
park.
recreation district, as a special taxing district and under Florida law, we're limited. There was a comment made at the September 6th meeting about why don't we put a restaurant in the fire department building? We can't do that. It's not,
Well,
we're not, we're, as
understand
a special purpose government park and recreation district, we can't have a restaurant. Okay.
But maybe we could have at the marina.
We couldn't do it
It's
there.
part of the
We could, the marina
Release it.
is part of the park. We are limited to, as a park and rec special district in the state of Florida, what we can have for businesses within our boundaries.
Okay, well, maybe sell a little piece of it.
Well, we
I
can't,
don't know.
Yeah, no,
said
I
the
hear
money,
you. I hear you and I really, every decision that is made here affects every one of us. We're all owners
Right.
here. We all have to pay that assessment too. We feel the pain that, I mean, we don't have different
right,
incomes
I'd
than anybody else.
understand. I'd even understand myself.
So,
Even if I was a boat owner.
yeah. So we are always looking for ways to manage our assessments, to do the business of the park to save as much money as we can. And I'm always open to ideas, and if we can do them within, you know, our entity, we will do them, believe me. But right now, this is all the only option that we have to get this very critical situation taken care of, is to do the loan.
Oh, I hear that
Okay,
it's
and,
critical.
and,
I
and believe me,
understand.
if we can find a way to get a grant, because there's one out there that nobody was able to find. Oh my God, please tell me so we can get working on that. We have, you know, we're trying. I'm sorry. Thank you very much. And I hopefully I've answered some questions for some other people too. So that's good.
Hi, my name is Steve Johnson, 2327 Pennsylvania Avenue. I understand it needs to be done and it all sounds good. The problem, not that there's a problem, but the marine slips, we discount so much for people that are owners in there.
Mhm.
So the people that don't have boats, obviously I have a couple boats, I have my own seawall I have to take care of and you have to replace, but so they get a discount and we all get stuck a little more with the bill. Trying to explain it like that, you know what I mean? I believe you should raise it a little more. You shouldn't, I don't know
No.
how I'm saying, you know what I mean? And I get how she feels, but that's how you feel about that. Then even like the marina, the ramp, I like to be able to use the ramp. It's hard to get in and out. I still work, I come and go. It would be nice, to try to make it a little more friendly. It'd be nice to have access, like we have a fob to get into places, so I can use the ramp when it's after hours, when I can get in and out. Saturdays, trying to get it at noon. I guess that was kind of my point, is just if you're able to do, if you can't use it, just make it a little more interactive, I guess, what I'm getting at. The price on the ramps, if someone's paying the good money, I get you're supposed to cater to the people that own here. But just because they own here, they should get a discount, but not a huge discount, because not everybody, like she said, has a boat. If they, I'm not good with the words. Yeah.
No.
I will, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the contract for innovations is this year.
I don't know off the top of my head. So I don't wanna say.
Whenever the contract ends, I will go back and try to negotiate having the ramp opened different. I have talked to him even before we started this, and even the previous owners. They do not want to have the fob system, because they would have to install all kinds of security so you could back your boat in. One, it's not a public ramp, it's only for trailer estates and park and recreation.
Correct.
But yes, I will do that.
I
I'll
just
see
use
if I
that as an
can do.
example. I knew that would be expensive, and giving everybody a key to it, it's asinine, but like I said, even with one of our hurricanes we had, I had a hard time. I had to get my boat off the ramp. I had a hard time. One of our previous, I believe it's changed dockmaster, pretty much told me was, Penn Street boat ramps wide open 24/7, knock yourself out.
Well,
I
I'm
wasn't
sorry.
real proud about that.
If that was said, I apologize for that, because we actually had staff come down and have that open all the way through the
Right.
weekend. I was there to
Okay.
open that up.
I missed that. I had her name, and it was all good. I wasn't upset. I missed the window, and I was understanding. But it.
Yeah, understood.
Yeah, it just, some of it
Understood.
gets me frustrating. I don't mind paying my fair share. It's not a big deal. I have a boat and all that. And I also have to take your own seawall, but it just seems like, the people that use all that are getting a discount is kind of riding on our shoulders. Piggybacking on us.
We've
But
lost.
let me go the other way. I don't know how many board
Yeah.
meetings you've
Yeah.
attended, but every time we have raised that, oh Lordy
I know.
be.
I don't have the right answer. If I did, I
Oh
do.
Lordy be.
Standing
So it
alone.
probably ain't the right time. It's the only reason, everything else was answered, and we need to fix it, no doubt. That's, yeah. And it has to be done, otherwise even more money pays in.
Oh, Lord.
Yes,
Yeah.
so.
I would hate to have somebody walking on the top deck and have that collapse.
Lawsuit, yeah.
Oh,
everything,
it
yeah.
would be tremendous.
But yeah, that was, if we could do something like with the, make it a little more friendly, where you're able to use the ramp a little bit more. And innovation's great. Randy Hicks was great when he was there.
Yeah.
Other gentlemen, not so much. So,
Yeah.
but
Well, let me know if you have problems with innovation. I know the previous contractor that we had here, I actually terminated his contract
Correct.
because of the poor service. If you
But
heard
they're
that
pretty
from
good, yeah.
innovations, let me know.
they're just awful busy. And when they're during working, it's hard to get in and out because I mean, that's what they do is marine work and they got the boat in there
Mhm.
working on it. Which I don't mind. I don't mind waiting. It's not a big deal, but on Saturdays when I'm trying to do something, it's hard to catch them only at, till noon.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Steve, I'll work on that.
right,
Just
thank
see
you. You have a
on the
great day.
5 or on Saturdays for noon.
My name is Susanna Young. I have 6509 Nebraska. And I had a simple question, just a quick one, but I can see there's a bigger problem here. People forget that anything that has access to the water and on the water is going to be, have more property value. And also there's responsibilities, especially a place like this, a lot of responsibility because you offer so many amenities. And I don't know how, I mean, the Marina is like a diamond. It sits on your finger, doesn't do anything to some people. To others, it's really a workable diamond. But it has value. I mean, diamonds aren't cheap. But you are very lucky that you've had cracks in your marina and you've had patches and it's held up without collapsing. You're very lucky. Because once they start deteriorating, it's like cancer. And then the surge of the water and rain. Anyway, you all know that. But the thing is when you buy into trailer estates, you're buying into the whole package. And this gets lost in personal preferences and everything. There's loads of other parks and some, there are some that you can buy the land, but this is unique. You can buy the land here and you have water access. And if anybody has traveled around our coastlines, you'll know that this is a rare, like Bayshore and other waterfront, I would say, low-cost entities that are still around. You're lucky. But and also people lose sight of the fact that this is a little government under the state. So you have government rules and regulations to deal with. And you have to operate with your hands in your pockets. Anyway, my question was, on the website, is there a plan of what exactly they're going to do in the marinas? Oh, I have to say, I'm gratified to hear you engage Reuben Larson. He's a good guy and he just knows what he's doing.
Yep.
Anyway, that I could see what exactly is going to be done and take place. My main concern was I hope it includes checking and replacing any tiebacks, because that's like setting your teeth on top of your gum with no roots. So anyway,
I'm sorry, I can't tell you the number of tiebacks, but I think the tiebacks are 16 feet long. They have a pressure PSI of 5,400 pounds per square inch. And I think there's 40 of them, and it starts from the west end of the wall and comes all the way around to the north end of the wall. It's going to be out into Canada Boulevard as well as Pennsylvania, Michigan.
wow.
And the back half.
They
is-
have to be checked
It's and the
or
contractor,
replaced, you know.
The contract,
JP Morgan, they actually have to come out and inspect that, take pictures of the actual PSI that tieback is done.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's well covered in that contract.
the proposal
But
that
is
they
that
gave
in
us.
is there a, I could look at to see what the needs list is and what they're actually,
Isn't that on the website in the
addressing
proposal?
what you're paying for or what we're paying for?
I can give you the proposal and even
I
these.
think it's
these
on the
specs.
website.
Is that
It's on the
there?
I think it's on the
Okay.
don't know
website.
that, Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, it sounds like if, you're covering your bases and, the way this place is run, I'm fairly confident that, but yes, there's always a thing with inside, outside uses. Bay Shore actually opened up their ramp, on a bidding basis in case anybody wants to check on that. I think it's by lottery though. They only open up a certain amount to see how it worked.
Mhm.
So anyway, you can get a fob for that ramp over there as an outsider. We didn't used to do that, but
Yeah.
anyway, but I hope to be a resident here in the very near future. So
Great, thank
thank
you.
you.
Susanna? Susanna, can you spell your last name for me?
Young, Young.
Oh, sorry. Wasn't even close to what I thought I heard. Thank you, dear.
Young.
Thank you.
Good morning. Donna Fishburne, 1607 Iowa Avenue. And again, thank you for everything you guys have been doing. I know it's been going on a while. I've had several neighbors that say, oh, why now? I'm like, well, I've heard about it for at least the last 18 to 24 months. But one thing I do want to say is I totally agree with the lady that was up before me. It is definitely an amenity that goes towards our property value. If you see any house that's in our development that is up for sale, the Marina pictures are included. So it goes for everybody. And the Marina is a lot of reasons why some people will move here, whether or not they have a boat. There's people that go down there just to fish that do not have a boat. And another reason is that the discounted fees for that marina is a lot of reasons why people come here. And that's basically all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did I bring up the last time we raised rates, they pulled their boats?
Marianne Morava at 1806 Minnesota Avenue. We did move here because of the marina. It's very nice to have, but I just wondered why the 10th property can't be sold and some of the money, that money be used for that. I don't see any use for that 10th property. They don't do anything. That's about all I got to say.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good morning, Jim Bolton, 6918 Tarpon Lane. Again, thank you all for all your diligence and work. Keep hearing all these different things, and I got 2 points that I would like to make in favor of what we're doing. One is that the cost is less than cocktail a month, okay? It's not a humongous amount of money. I know people are on fixed incomes and such, but this cost increase assessment is not tremendous. Number 2 is we have a swimming pool. Why don't we just start charging people to go swimming? The swimming pool is a diamond. It is a reason people come here. It's there. It's an amenity. I'm pretty sure very few people in this community, the overall number, use that swimming pool. So the argument about I have a boat or I don't have a boat, I should say, I don't have a boat, I have to pay for it. Well, what about the people that don't go swimming and still pay and have paid forever? We just talked about that if the swimming pool took a crack, that's going to be similar cost that we're going to have to incur. Think we're going to change our mind about the swimming pool? The swimming pool is going to get fixed. You don't have a boat. Well, when you moved here, Isn't like this was built since you moved here, maybe. Some people may. I believe it was 1984. 84 is when the marina was put in. 87. Okay, thank you. Okay, so that's just my point. I think this is something we need to do. You've done a lot of due diligence in doing it. I got the whole thing about the 17 years. I've been on a board like this. That's a difficult one to answer for these people. Nobody here has been on this board for, that was the longest. 7?
7.
7, okay,
Oh,
so
7
you're
or
well
8.
outside of that big window. And you can always point fingers, but it's got to be fixed now. It's a resource. So thanks for doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Tom Brittle, 6510 Arizona Street. If you'd indulge me, I'd like to talk off subject and make a few comments. That's okay.
Subject of the financing.
For the financing or?
Oh,
I'm representing CERT today, and I want to make a few comments about CERT because we got some issues.
that-
going on.
I would like to hold those
Yeah,
comments
That's,
really
that's why I
just
asked
a
for it.
public hearing
Point of
for the
order.
marina.
please come on the 19th.
Yes,
I
that'd be
can't make
perfect.
it on the 19th. That's why I wanted to come today.
Unfortunately, I'll
I
have to
understand.
hold
Yeah,
that.
sorry.
Anybody else in the audience that'd like to address that? The marina? Do I have anybody on Zoom that would like to make a public comment?
Dwayne, before you close public comment, I need something covered.
Okay, right now I don't hear any comments on Zoom, so do you want to go ahead, Lori?
Yeah, Mary, there was an email that was sent out to all of the trustees with 3 questions from a resident. 2 of them have already been covered, but one of them was a request to explain that the debt was not going to exceed 1.5 million, and that the revenue at the end was going to be 2,423,711.25, and she thought that would be more than just interest. Can you explain? Are you familiar with the question?
I
You
am.
got the
Thank you,
email?
Lori. Yep.
Can you explain that, please?
Yep. I'll start off with the 2.4 million that was referenced in that letter was a leftover from the 6% interest rate. So it automatically was an incorrect number. It goes back to me saying that I need to collect amount that after discounts, if you early pay, after admin fees from the tax appraiser and the tax collector, I need to net enough to pay the loan. So when you look at if I take that for 15 years and I gross it up for all of those, it does come out to be a little more than $2 million. And that is more than just the 4.11%. It's all of those other. We have to assume 4% discount rate, even though you get 4% if you pay it in November, 3% if you pay it in December, or whatever, it reduces down depending on what you pay it. We are required to assume the maximum 4% discount. So this is probably too much information. So I'm gonna hope that I'm not gonna cause more issues here by explaining this, but every year when we collect our payments, I'm gonna have to determine what we really got for a reduction because of early payments. If everybody paid with the 1%, we'd have more money than we needed, right? So that's going to go into this fund account, and I have to set up a completely separate account for this loan on the books where the money will come in from the tax bill and the money will go out to pay the loan. And then probably by the time we get to the 15th year, we may be lucky enough that we have enough money left in that account to pay that 15th year loan payment without doing an assessment that year because of the way the discounts worked or the way, I can't know that now. That's a long way away. But it will be kept very separate on the books. The auditors will be reviewing that every year to make sure that we've correctly accounted for the portion of our assessment income that's related to this debt versus the operations, the amount of the prepayments. This is going to be so much fun to administer because all of those that make the prepayments, I'm going to have a way of knowing that property A prepaid, property B didn't. So next year, when the tax roll was submitted, property A's assessment is one thing, property B's is something different for the term of the loan. But we talked about whether or not we wanted to offer prepayments because of the administrative, downfall of that. But it was important enough to save you money if you could afford to opt into it, that we wanted to make prepayments available. But that amount is the end result of all of those extra interest and admin fees, discounts, all of that.
Tax collector.
The tax collector fee, the property appraiser's fee, all of that. Thank you, Lori. That was a question
All right.
that was submitted.
Yep, you took care of that. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Mary.
And hopefully I didn't confuse everybody all over again.
Oh, good.
Carol Duran, 6604 New Jersey. Excuse my dress, I just came from the pool. But, I have a question. On this extra payment, this assessment for the marina. If we were to sell our home after this goes through, who's liable to pay it, or is it a negotiable item? Can we push it on to the buyer, or does the homeowner have to pay that in order to clear the title?
So if you don't opt into the prepayment, whoever the owner of the property is going to pay the operational assessment and the special assessment
At the closing?
at every year. If you prepay it and then 2 years from now you sell it, then that property has been prepaid. So whoever the new owner is will only get the operational assessment because the assessment related to this special funding has been prepaid.
What if
Okay?
it's not prepaid?
If it's not prepaid, they'll be paying the $100.44 per lot for the remainder.
Who
So if we're
will?
5 years into the loan and you sell it, there's 10 years left on that loan, that whoever purchases that property will pay that for the next 10 years.
Okay, so it can go to the
It
buyer.
goes,
then a new
it goes
buyer.
with the property.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the other question I have is, I'm wondering if we can bring in some income even, and, put a disclaimer that it's temporary, for the 10 property. I mean, for storage, there's a whole lot that can be done without building. Maybe we would need to put a fence around it, but that would be it. And maybe we could rent that out to outsiders at a higher cost to offset some of it. And if we ever want to build on it or do something else, it's put in the whatever you're going to contract or however you bring it forward to do that it's a temporary, project.
That is something that, there would be some capital investment into the property to make it available to use as storage. Then you've got all of the neighboring residents of that property. They're going to have a lot of traffic going in and out of it. How are they going to feel about that?
Oh, you bet.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things to consider, but considering anything we can do to bring more income into the park is something we need to discuss as a board, absolutely. And we need to weigh the pros and cons to what's the cost of preparing it for that use versus what's the impact on the district for using it for that use. It's a lot, but you're right. We've got that property that we need to
Do something.
do something with, and
And the other thing is about that property, I don't think we should ever sell it because
don't
the
either.
reason we got it was, as my understanding, is that the church in front of it was having financial problems. And so they sold that off. So now if we were to sell that and that church sells off again, we would have 41 coming right into New Jersey. So I think that it should be off the charts totally to sell it. That could cause our park a lot of trouble, crime, all kinds of things. That's all I have.
Thanks, Carol.
I would like to mention that this board has looked at various different types of usage for the 10 property. We looked at storage of the actual cement block storage for residents to put it in there. We've looked at running tracks,
Pole
Okay.
barn,
the pole barn.
Yeah.
I have talked to outside vendors on actually putting a veterans home, renting that property out. And I just forgot the other 5 different things that we've looked at, but yeah, we have looked at that every year and nothing has been feasible. Especially from the complaints that we get from the surrounding people on Tennessee, New Jersey, that area of actually having additional traffic going in there. So, and we'll continue to look for.
RV rental, different things like that.
Yeah, right. Or even space to, for RV rentals for guests and visitors to use, maybe charge them.
But one thing I want to make sure too is when we have, excuse me, when we have heavy rains, that place actually floods.
Yes, it does.
It floods bad. So we'll have to
That's
take a look
another
at that.
cost.
Mhm,
Yeah.
another cost.
Thank
All right.
Okay, do we have anybody else that would like to speak for the public hearing? Do I have anybody on Zoom that would like to comment for the public hearing? Hearing none, I'd like to have a motion to recess the public hearing until September 15th at 9:30 here in Marks Hall.
Yeah.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor of recessing the public hearing until September 15th at 9:30 a.m. here in Marks Hall, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no, nay.
Okay.
Okay, so we will recess the meeting at 10:52 a.m.